Welcome. How's everyone doing? My name is Chef Casey Willard. I'm the executive chef for Yochidehi Winter Nation. I'd like for the first recipe today, we're going to do a braised wild rabbit tamale. It's going to be in a banana leaf and with a walnut mole. So first, let's start. We're going to start braising our rabbit. But first, I'm going to do a little trick. I'm going to add mine with some chorizo. And the chorizo fat is going to help give the rabbit flavor, color, and much needed fat. So once you get your chorizo all broken down, let that render. You want that fat because that fat's going to help that rabbit. And while that's cooking, come back and season your rabbit. So my rabbit's very simple. It's going to be salt, pepper, and as you can see, my rabbit, I have my rabbit in half. I'm going to do a little paprika, just kind of the same kind of flavors of that chorizo, and some chili powder. Kind of simple, kind of get it in there. Now I'm going to put mine meat flesh down. Get that right in there, turn the heat up a little bit. So you want to sear the outside. Searing the outside is going to help you retain all that moisture on the inside when you're braising. It's going to help lock in all that moisture, all that flavor that you're working so hard with the chorizo. And rabbit was a very sustainable meat. It was something that it was a prized meat. It was traded. It was used in a lot of the cooking, a lot of the sustainability. It was enough meat that could sustain a tribe, sustain a family. So you're just kind of looking for marks. You really want that really red crusted outside because that chorizo fat's going to come out. All those spices are going to come out. You really want to take advantage of that chorizo fat. So you're hoping for the red. You want the red, you want the color. Get it into your pan that you're going to use. Olive oil back in. Let that get the temp, which it is. Now we're going to start with our mirepoix, okay? Onion, celery, carrot. Onion goes in first. Kind of get that going. And then we'll do our carrot. Let that go. But since we are here at Seca Hills and we do have wonderful wine and oil, I'm going to deglaze this pan with a little bit of red wine. It's our Toluca, a little bit of water, and a little bit of tomato puree. So let's finish this off with some celery. And while this is going, I'm going to add some thyme. It's really looking nice right now. That's where that chorizo helps, all that fat from the chorizo, just that natural, beautiful pork fat coming out. And once you deglaze, that's when you start scraping the pan, okay? That's when you're trying to really work that fond, really build that flavor up, really bring it off the pan. It's looking beautiful. If you could smell what I'm smelling, just the red wine, the chorizo, the herbs, the vegetables, everything's coming through. So I'm putting a little tomato puree. You could do a paste if you want. You could do tomato sauce if you want. This is gonna help thicken your sauce. The tomato helps thicken when it cooks. It also scorches easy, so make sure you have a little bit of water next to your pan just in case you need to thin it out, because the sugar in the tomato will scorch just like garlic. Okay, water comes in. Okay, now we have our braising liquid. Now we're ready for that rabbit to come back in. Okay, I'm gonna put the meat side down so the breastplate is up and the meat is submerged. If you want, you can add a little more herbs. I always like to add a little more salt and pepper. And you come, put your lid on it. So once you have your rabbit in the pot, in the oven, cooking, now it's time to focus on the two other components to the dish. We gotta make a mole. Let's just do a little bit of oil, a little bit of our arbequina here. Okay, we'll start with some of our chilies. So that's really gonna bring some of the oil or the dried chili out. I'll bring in some peppercorn, and then we'll do a little clove. Now you gotta be careful with your herb. They will tend to burn. You gotta constantly keep them moving, constantly keep them in the oil, moving around so they don't get complacent, they don't burn. Let's do a little anise. Then I'm gonna add some water to my mixer here. I'm gonna put the mole in the mixer, and that's really gonna help puree everything. So I'm gonna put my chilies in here now. If you want to, ahead of time, you can soak your chilies in hot water. That'll help bring them out. I'm gonna add a little onion. I'm gonna add a little more carrot. I'm gonna add some raisins. Raisins, a little sweetness to it. Like I said, saute, make sure there's oil in there. And while this is sauteing, I'm gonna add some of the walnuts. Again, just to bring out some of the oils in the walnut. A little cumin. Do a little more paprika. Definitely some salt and pepper. Big fan of salt and pepper. And then while that's cooking, you can add a little bit of tomato sauce. So give that a stir. I'm gonna add a little chicken stock. I see I still need to add some cinnamon, a little dried thyme, and then some Mexican oregano. And just give that a stir. Kind of want to get this nice and hot. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add everything back into the pot. Now as you're stirring, make sure that you didn't forget about the secret ingredient. That's the roasted garlic. So what you can do is you take a whole clove of garlic, roast it in the oven, some olive oil, salt and pepper, nice and tender, and then you can just pop them right out of the thing and right into the sauce. So once your sauce comes to a boil and you feel like your chilies have really gotten soft, you can kind of turn the heat down, or you could turn it off. You can let the sauce sit. Let it cool down, let those chilies get even more soft. And now we can focus on making our masa for the tamale. Now this masa is gonna be a little bit different. This masa is gonna be utilizing with acorn flour. This is the Blue Hills acorn, and then this is some masa. I believe it's about 2 cups is the ratio, 2 cups masa to 1 cup acorn flour. And then of course, if your ratio is off, you can always add or take away. I'm gonna add oil. When I make my doughs, I like to utilize a wooden board. For me, the wood is just a giving board. It helps with the dough. And as you're mixing it, you can see it starting to crumble. So that means some of that flour is absorbing the fat. Do a little more chicken stock. You don't want the dough to be too wet. This isn't going to be a traditional tamale. Like I said, this is going to be in banana leaf. You could do this in a regular husk. You could do this recipe if you just had instant masa, or if you had any other, what you use for your family traditional ways. Again, you want the dough to be able to come together, to form, but not be too sticky that you can't spread it. And kind of get it into a nice ball, kind of form it. Okay, so once your masa is ready, like we've just done, let's head back and check our sauce. You don't want the sauce to be super hot when you're blending it, because we've all heard the stories, right? It blows up, everything comes out. And there's a lot of pieces in there. You got walnuts, you got the chilies, you got the seeds. So you really need a puree, you really need a puree. Now once you have it pureed, you're gonna actually take it back to the pan. You're gonna cook it up one more time. And also you can tell if it's too thick, too thin. So let that simmer for the 5 more minutes. It's gonna thicken up. Just watch it, constantly stir it, because it will scorch on you. Now the banana leaves, what I'm trying to replicate here, what I'm trying to show is, in this region, they probably could have used like tule leaves to either wrap meat, wrap veggies, wrap something that they wanna cook low and slow under the ground. I like to take 2 and tie these together to make one big tie. So what we can do, we can take the masa. I like to kind of press it down, kind of press it down onto the leaf and take your shredded rabbit meat, put that kind of on top. You're gonna do a little cheese. This is a little Monterey Jack. You're gonna do a little black bean, a little corn, and then you're gonna fold. You're gonna fold one side, you're gonna fold the other side. You're gonna keep folding all the way around. This would go into a big steam basket. Steam comes up, 40 minutes, almost like a traditional tamale, should look the same. And you can see how the difference with the with the acorn turns the masa nice and brown. So now it's time to garnish. So we're gonna garnish with everything that we've placed inside the tamale. So I like to do, we'll start with our sauce, do the mole. The mole can be hot, it can be room temperature. You could have it in a squeeze bottle. And the mole, the sweet spice is gonna help with the rabbit. Do a little corn, a little more of the black bean, a little more of the Monterey Jack, and then a little queso fresco. And here you have it. Braised rabbit, acorn tamale with a walnut mole.